Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another Screw Toy action figure video. Today we'll be doing the top 20 figures of 2022. These are my personal favorite figures that were released in the year of 2022. And yeah, man, it's a very interesting list. I didn't want to do a top 10. I didn't want to do a separate video for Marvel Legends, for Mafex, for SH Fig Arts. I just wanted to do all in one video because in my personal opinion, I don't care about the price point. I don't care about what brand it is. It's just the overall fun I had with these action figures. And yeah, man, starting off the list at the very bottom, unfortunately, we have Namor. He was a solid figure overall. It's a great looking figure. It poses well. The articulation is great. It's a little lackluster. It doesn't come with much accessories. He comes with the big sphere, and then he comes with interchangeable hands, I believe. It would have been nice to get some deluxe version of this guy with the headdress that he wears in the movie, and a little bit more of the underwater look that he does. And still a very solid figure. But the reason I had this figure on this list is because of representation. It's nice seeing a Mexican actor in a big franchise like the Black Panther movie and in the MCU, and just having him in action figure form is nice as well. But yeah, at the very bottom we have Namor by Marvel Legends. At the number 19 spot, I have a figure that actually surprised me quite a bit this year, rewinding it all the way back to the beginning of 2022. I think he came out maybe the first week or two of 2022. Some of them did leak out earlier. I know a couple of reviewers had this in late 2021. But for me, I got this figure in 2022, and that is the Marvel Legends Hammerhead. This figure was quite surprising, and I only put him on this list because I've had this figure about 3 times now. I've bought it, sold it, bought it, sold it, and he always makes it back to my collection. It is a very nice representation of a comic book version of Hammerhead. He looks amazing. Everything about him is perfect. The only thing I would change is giving him pinless arms, but even that is very minor. I don't mind it as much as I would in other figures. He does come with brand new legs. He came with a very nice pinstripe suit, which we don't see often done by the Marvel Legends team. The accessories are nice. He comes with multiple interchangeable hands. The baseball bat is nice, and then the head sculpt is just great. So it's a solid figure overall. Again, nothing too crazy, but he is my definitive version of a Hammerhead in my collection, and that's mainly what my collection is based off, or not my collection, I'm sorry, this top 20 list is based off, is if the figure is a definitive version at the time of its release, and I feel like I don't need any other version of that character in my collection, then it makes my top 20 list, and Hammerhead is one of those characters. Surprisingly, coming in at number 18, we have the Mafex Jean Grey by Medicom Toys, and yeah, again, I said it was surprising to put this figure in this spot because I was looking forward to this figure quite a bit when it was first announced. But for me, it was just lackluster. For some reason, this figure just didn't satisfy me the way I thought it would. I think it's because I feel that she needed a little bit more of effect powers to kind of demonstrate what her powers are. She did come with a nice assortment of hands, heads, and a very few amount of accessories that shows her telekinesis power and her just her powers overall. And yeah, I feel like she needed a little bit more. For the price point, I wanted a little bit more. I know Psylocke, she was a great example of power demonstrations and accessories, but this one just wasn't doing it for me. So unfortunately, I did have to rank her this low on the list. I wish I would have liked her a lot more. She is still a great figure. I do recommend picking this up. This is the best version of Jean Grey that's ever been released in action figure form. So it's not a bad figure. It's just for me, wasn't the greatest this year. At number 17, we have the Marvel Legends Black Panther. And this figure honestly would have been a lot higher on my list if it was on a different body mode. This Black Panther figure does utilize the Vulcan body mode. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I feel like this body mode's already outdated. Waist swivels, man, are hideous. I hate them. They look ugly. They should stay in the past for sure. I just really dislike waist swivels. When you turn them and you articulate them, they look very blocky and choppy. I don't like it. It's not my thing. I feel like this figure would have benefited a lot better if it was on the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man body with toe articulation and upper diaphragm cut. And just having them in a little bit more classic colors as well, like having the gloves purple, bluish would have been very nice. Having a longer cape and a sphere would have been nice. Kind of like that first Walmart exclusive we got a couple years back. That would have been my definitive version of a Black Panther, but for now, this will do as we don't have a solid Black Panther figure. Most of them are on the Bucky body, and I believe one of them is on the Sunfire body. And yeah, I just hope in the future we get a better Black Panther on a better body mode. Still, overall, a very solid figure, just not my definitive version of a Black Panther. At number 16, we have a first timer for a company and a brand and character in my collection, and that is the 30MDLX Bumblebee. When I first got this figure, man, it was my introduction to the 30 line, and I was absolutely blown away from the paint to the articulation to the sculpt. Everything about this figure is perfect, and he honestly would have been a lot higher on my list if it weren't for one figure that kind of beat him to that spot. But this figure, man, I mean, everything you want from a Bumblebee figure, it's here. The one thing is it doesn't transform, and I know that's sacrilegious for a lot of people, but for me, I don't want a transformer in my collection, because if I do have Transformers in my collection, which I do now, it would have been in robot mode regardless. So having this figure represent Bumblebee in its robot mode is perfect. It's a perfect clash of modern and classic G1 Transformers. It's honestly perfect, man, for me in my collection. And yeah, I haven't had any Transformers in my adult life. I did have them as a kid. I actually had quite a few as a kid, and it was one of the biggest things that I bought and had as a young, a young screw toys. So having this one here, man, it kind of really brings nostalgia, and just again, very impressive figure. I highly recommend you go pick it up if you can. So at number 16, Bumblebee. At number 15, we have another first timer for a brand in my collection, and that is the WWE Legends Ultimate Edition Batista by Mattel. And when I first saw this figure announced, man, I knew I had to have this figure in my collection. This is the Batista I remember watching growing up when I watched WWE during the Ruthless Aggression era, and he was always one of my favorites. And again, I saw it, knew I had to buy it. When I first found out that he dropped, I went to every Target trying to find him, and he was actually registered log, which was a little bit devastating for me at the time. But I did end up getting my hands on him fairly early. And this figure is just great, man. I mean, he comes with a shit ton of accessories. He comes with a WWE belt, 2 clipboards from that iconic time when he was trying to choose if he wanted to do Raw or SmackDown. He comes with 2 different head sculpts, different hands, and honestly, he comes with everything you would want with a Batista figure. Some things are a little bit outdated on the figure, like the some of the articulations are a little choppy. It's a little weird, but overall, still a solid figure, and that's why he's at number 15 on my list. At number 14, we have the Medicom Toys Mafex Harley Quinn. And honestly, what can I say about this figure? It's an iconic Harley Quinn. Great for any Batman display, and I think it's essential. It's the best Harley Quinn there is out there by any company. Honestly, it would have been higher on my list, but there's just so many other better figures, man, that came out this year. An amazing figure. Highly recommend you picking it up. But right now, for me, it's at number 14. At number 13, we have a simple repaint by the Marvel Legends team, and that is the Retro Cart Beast. This figure is by far superior than the original release we saw back in the Caliban Wave, I believe back in 2018. This figure has upgraded paint schemes. They added paint to the toenails and the claws. It comes with a soft goods lab coat. We hardly ever see that in the Marvel Legends line. And to have a full lab coat on this figure just makes it so much better again than the original release. He comes with a brand new head sculpt, some little flask and beakers for him to do a science experiment. This figure is just the best Beast figure that we've seen by any company, until the Mafex line eventually releases theirs. But right now, this figure is perfect, and that's why it's at my number 13 spot. At number 12, we have another retro card by the Marvel Legends team, and that is Shocker. This figure released back in early 2022. It was one of the first releases that came out in 2022 by the Marvel Legends team. Everything about this figure is perfect, from the sculpt to the paint to the accessories. It is a classic looking Shocker. I mean, the details, man, the details is what gets me on this figure. From every brown part you see on this figure, you see sculpted looking leather, and then he does come with sculpted lines throughout the quilt looking pattern throughout this costume. The only thing that would have brought this figure a little bit higher is if those quilted lines were painted in. But overall, still a very solid figure, and it is my definitive Shocker until another one comes out that is far superior than this one, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So that's why he's on my number 12 spot. We have Shocker. At number 11, unfortunately, we have the Medicom Toys Mafex Endgame Captain America. And the reason this figure ranks so low for me is because of QC issues. QC absolutely killed this figure for me, man. The first thing is that his left arm completely snapped off from the shoulder and was unfixable unless I superglued the arm back together. Unfortunately, that is what I did, and he lost all upper bicep swivel because of that. Second is that shield is very, very annoying to deal with. It has removable straps that can be interchanged with the other shield that he has, and they're just very finicky, very annoying, and just unpleasant to deal with. And the third thing that killed this figure is the swinging Mjolnir effect that he comes with. That thing is absolutely heavy. He cannot hold it. It topples over. And one of the biggest selling points about this figure is that the accessories were just amazing. Unfortunately, the accessories were the most annoying part about this figure, besides it breaking on me. But yeah, fortunately, I wish this figure was a lot higher on my list, but he's not. So that's why he's at the number 11 spot. And before we get into the second half of my list, I wanted to talk about some honorable mentions. And the way I wanted to do that this year is by talking about figures that I no longer have in my collection, but I wish that I still did have. Us as collectors, we wish we could have everything and we could buy everything, but that's just not the case. So because of budget cuts, I did have to cut some figures out and sell them. So with the first figure I wanted to talk about, or actually the first two figures I wanted to talk about, is the Sentinel SPDR and Peter B. Parker. Those figures were absolutely amazing. I loved them. Everything about them was perfect. Unfortunately, they were the ones to get cut out of my collection, and fairly sad about that. But toys come and go. Eventually, they will make it back into my collection. The second one, man, was a very, very impressive figure that kind of took me by surprise, and that is the Felix Toys Inkblot. That figure I absolutely loved. I actually had him since it first released, all the way up to maybe last month. Christmas really, really kicked my ass this year, so he had to make it out of my collection so I can make Christmas happen. Another ones that I wanted to talk about was the Death gas station figures that I had in my collection. Those figures were absolutely amazing. They were just really great figures. The quality on the soft goods were pretty impressive for a lesser known company. But hopefully I will get most of them back here in the near future. Another one by a very big company, Mesco Toys, is Atticus Doom. Atticus Doom was a very impressive figure as well. Yeah, man, he was just a solid figure. Was really, really impressive. It just the amount of accessories that came with that figure was just outstanding. The articulation was amazing. The soft goods were pretty good as well. Yeah, just a very impressive figure, and I wish I still had him, but unfortunately, it was the only Mesco figure I had in my collection at the time, and he was the first one to get cut. So, a little bit sad that he's no longer in the collection, but yeah, I'll be all right. Next, we have the Marvel Legends Retro Hulk and Captain America. I did get rid of those. I mainly got rid of Captain America because I did see that Mafex had shown their prototype back in one of the conventions I can't remember earlier this year. And yeah, I was like, oh, well, I'll eventually get a better Captain America in my collection, so let me sell my retro cap off. Unfortunately, they have not putting it up for pre-order, so patiently waiting for that to happen. And even when it does go up for pre-order, it will be a year or so before it releases. So hopefully, I can get Cap here in the near future. And then the Retro Hulk, I just sold them off because I was like, you know what? I don't need Avengers. As soon as I sold my Avengers off, I kind of regretted it. So hopefully, I'll get him in the near future as well. And lastly, we have the SH Figure Arts Buzz Lightyear from the movie Lightyear. That figure was very impressive. Unfortunately, he was the only one that kind of just stood out in my collection because he didn't really have a spot. And yeah, pretty sad about him as well. But you know, he didn't really fit in, so it was time for him to go as well. And lastly, I did want to mention the Marvel Legends HasLab Galactus. Obviously, he is a great figure, but he is a $400 figure, so couldn't add him to my list compared to everybody else because, for $400, he should be a great figure. And, a lot of people are going to put him on their list. So, great figure, just not for this list. So, back to my top 10. At number 10, probably a very controversial one, we have the Marvel Legends Retro Card Deluxe Rhino. Yes, I know it's a very, very simple repaint by the Marvel Legends team, but I don't care, man. Rhino has always and always will be one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, and this figure, man, is just absolutely beautiful, and really, it's all due to those head sculpts. Those head sculpts are absolutely amazing. I don't care what anybody says. I said it in my original review of this figure. I love this figure, man. I don't care if it's just a simple repaint. It's just, you could tell love was put into this figure, especially in those head sculpts. The shoulders, they fixed the holes that go on the shoulders because of the shoulder pads. Just little details like that, man. Really made this figure great. Again, I've wanted a solid, classic looking Rhino, and we have him finally in Marvel Legends form. And this figure is just chef's kiss in my opinion. Again, I don't care what anybody says. I know it's a simple repaint, but Rhino by the Marvel Legends team at number 10. At number 9, we have a figure that kind of blew me away and caught me by surprise, and that is the Medicom Toys Mafex Endgame Captain Marvel. I knew I was going to like this figure. It looked amazing from the promotional images and the solicitations, but just having it in hand, man, you need to have this figure in hand to really appreciate the love that was put into this figure. The texture and the sculpted detail throughout the whole figure is amazing. The paint apps are nice, crisp, and clean, but the thing that makes this figure shine is the accessories by far. All those energy effects you can add on this figure just really, really brings this figure to another level. The head sculpts are amazing. It's just, this figure is great, and that's why it's at number 9. At number 8, we have the best Marvel Legends released in 2022, and that is the Marvel Legends Retro Card Lizard. Everything about this figure, man, is just perfect. From the accessories, to the head sculpts, to the articulation. I mean, he has an upper diaphragm cut and a lower ab crunch. That is by far the best setup you can have on any figure. He has pinless joints. The paint is amazing. He has a bendy wire tail. Do I need to say more, man? Everything about this figure just, again, is amazing. And yeah, perfect looking lizard in my opinion. He is my definitive lizard that I will have in my collection for years to come. So very, very happy with this figure, and I recommend you pick it up if you can. He still is hitting Walmarts. I just saw one recently, not that long ago, maybe about a couple days ago in my local Walmart. So if you have the opportunity to pick this figure up, man, please do, because I promise you he will blow you away when you open him up. At number 7, we have the Medicom Toys Mafex Endgame Thor. And this figure, man, it's just perfect. Honestly, it's just perfect, from the soft goods to the sculpt, to those head sculpts, to the accessories. Everything about this figure is amazing. If you have the Infinity War Thor, this is pretty much that, but an endgame version. It's just, I really can't say more than I've already have in my previous reviews. He is just the best endgame Thor you can have in 6-inch form. And yeah, man, I think he's still available on AmiAmi, so if you have the opportunity to pick him up, please do. Ooh, this figure just screams classic, classic, classic. At number 6, we have the Medicom Toys Mafex Comic Iron Man. This figure, man, is just the definitive version of a comic book Iron Man. I don't think anybody will do better than this, man. The articulation, amazing. The accessories, amazing. He has swappable eyepieces, man. Come on. This figure is just perfect. I don't want to harp on about this figure because I'll be here all day. But this figure, man, perfect in my opinion. They couldn't have done anything better, and that's why he's at number 6. His championship spots now, because at number 5, we have the MDLX 3-0 Optimus Prime. And I did say that Bumblebee would have been higher on the list, but there was one figure that beat him out, and that is Optimus Prime, man. Everything I said about Bumblebee, you can put into Optimus Prime, but times 10. The accessories are better. He comes with twice the amount of accessories. The paint, the articulation, everything about this figure is just so much better, man. I mean, it's just a perfect figure. Again, perfect combination of G1 and modernization of this character. It's just amazing, man. Honestly, I don't need any other Optimus Prime in my collection, and this one will do it for the rest of my life. I might be a little bit over exaggerating, but still a very amazing figure, man. And I highly, highly recommend you pick this figure up if you're a Transformers fan, because again, this is perfection. At number 4, we have the Medicom Toys Mafex Symbiote Spider-Man. And as soon as I opened this figure up, man, I was like, yep, top 5 figures of the year for sure. You know, what can I say, man? Everything about this figure is perfection. If you have number 75 or the reissue of 75 from earlier this year, it's that, but just with symbiote on it, you know? It's perfect. Everything about it screams symbiote Spider-Man from the 90s, and yeah, I love it. At number 3, we have a beast of a figure, and that is the Medicom Toys Mafex Infinity War Doctor Strange. And the amount of accessories that came with this figure, man, is absolutely insane, but I love every single one of them. This figure is just perfection, everything I want from a Doctor Strange figure. But my favorite thing about this figure is the cloak levitation. That thing is beautiful, man. I mean, it's perfectly stitched, perfectly crafted. It's just a beautiful piece of soft goods. And this figure, man, completely benefits 100% from it. Just one of my favorite in my collection, and I will never see myself getting rid of this figure. Definitely a coffin fig. Shout out to Unparalleled Universe for that. But yes, definitely a coffin fig for me. And number 2, which had a very difficult time putting this figure in this spot, it kept bouncing between 1 and 2. But at number 2, we have the Metacon Toys Mafex Endgame Mark 85 Iron Man. And this figure is everything you want from a Mark 85. Many companies have tried to tackle this figure, from SH Field Arts to Marvel Legends. Everyone has done it, but no one has perfected it the way Mafex has. I mean, this figure is just beautiful, man. From the articulation, from the paint apps, the accessories, everything about this figure is amazing. But the nail in the coffin that killed every other company's Mark 85 is those beautiful Robert Downey Jr. head sculpts. I mean, that is 100% Robert Downey Jr. in 6-inch form, man. It is crazy scary how those head sculpts look so much like him. I mean, that is Hot Toys quality in my opinion. And yeah, man, this is why this figure is at number 2. And yeah, amazing figure. At number 1, we have the Metacon Toys Mafex Classic Suit Spider-Man. And I'm not going to say much about it because at number 1, I don't think it needs explanation, to be honest with you. It's everything I've ever wanted from a 6-inch Spider-Man figure. Everything I've ever wanted, and I have it in my possession, in my collection, in my hands. And yeah, don't ever need another Spider-Man figure. If this was my only one I ever had in my life, I'd be completely content with it. And yeah, over exaggerating right now, but I just love this figure. And if I had one figure to be buried with, this one would be it. So at number 1, the Metacom Toys Mafex Classic Spider-Man. And there you have it. What an amazing year this was for action figures, man. 2022 was just full of bangers, man. It was just like one after another, after another, after another. And my wallet definitely did suffer a little bit because of that. There was a lot of figures that I did not pick up this year that I really wanted to. Again, just due to budgets and not me being rich. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pick up everything. I will say before I go that I did realize that third parties companies really stepped it up this year, man. They dropped so many figures that were just amazing. For example, the Ink Blob was one of them. Unfortunately, I don't have that figure no more, and there was a couple other figures that I did want to pick up from third-party companies that just looked amazing. But overall, man, a solid year. Cannot wait for this year and what's to come. I already know a few pre-orders that I'm very excited about, like the Mafex store and a couple other Mafex figures in Marvel Legends that are out there on pre-order. But yeah, man, this is my list. I know some will not agree with this. I would love to hear your personal take on your top 10, top 5, top 20. What do you want to do? Down in the comments below. Let me know. I want to see what y'all's list is. But enough of me rambling on. Make sure you guys hit that like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.